Flamed on blue sky, yeah, first time's a charm. Broke my virginity, set off the alarm. Bad faith talk, they're twisting the scene. Call me a bigot, transphobe, terror smurf, superb. Twerping a Nazi ain't that extreme.
Oh, hi, it's Sandi. I was just wrestling with the boom arm. I was just having a fight with it. And I think I have it situated. I'm not sure. So you're listening to the Lesbian Mafia. Hi, hello. I'm just looking out the window, actually, and there's these 4 women that are walking, and they're in their, I want to say, 70s. And I remember meeting one of them when I first moved in to this building, and she's so attractive, right? And I thought to myself, wow, she must have been really... But when I first met her, and this is only 3 short years ago, she was, definitely in her 70s, but like she would still wear jeans, right? And then she had this like uber sexy walk. And I just remember thinking, wow, she's really, still like, you don't really lose that. Like, women are so afraid of losing their beauty or their youth, but especially if you're like a woman like that who really enjoyed your sex appeal and your beauty, you look at these women that how they probably carried themselves their entire lives, right? It does balance out with like, oh, wow, this is a seasoned woman, So I want to say, like, in the last 6 months, I've been seeing her going, like, just now, I saw her walking with a group of, like, 4 women. She has her own little crew here, and she's walking slower, It's interesting. Like, she still does her hair beautiful. She puts on a little bit of makeup, too, and... So, like, I don't go through all the fucking trouble she goes through to present herself every day, right? But she is, I noticed that her pace, the way she's walking, is slower. And the reality is, like, one of my girlfriends was like, any age after 50, anything could happen anytime. You don't know you could just fall over one day. I think even after 40 at this point, the way the health is in America anyway. But, like we were talking about how, like, after 50, like, you just got to be ready for fucking anything. But I think even especially in your 70s, it's like it almost feels like borrowed time in a way, like when you're well into your 70s, like if you're 77, 78, like that, it's like, okay, it's almost you're a little bit on borrowed time. And you don't really talk to people about this stuff, but is it scary to, as you get older, is it scary? Like, I'm scared even now. Actually, after 35, I was like, okay. But anyway, I'm trying to say one thing and then I end up somewhere else. And I don't even know where I am now. I'm having a beautiful cup of coffee that I made myself. And apparently there's cockroaches in your coffee. Let me pull this up again really quick. Yes, it's possible to find cockroaches in coffee, but the FDA allows a certain amount. Coffee beans can become infested with cockroaches in the fields where they're grown or during storage. The beans can't process out the insects completely, so they're ground up with the beans. The FDA allows up to 10% of green coffee beans to be insect infested or insect damaged. This means that if you have 1,000 pounds of coffee beans, 60 pounds of it could be contaminated with bug parts. And then they show a picture. I don't know where this is from. I just Googled it. They show a picture of a white coffee cup and then a cockroach crawling out of it. Anyway, so the lady I was talking about, it's a little bit sad to see her, But this is life, right? This is the cycle. Is it cycle of life or circle of life? I don't know. Am I singing John? What's his name? Not John. Elton. Am I singing Elton John? I don't know what I'm saying. Is it the cycle of life? But I guess it is the cycle of life, really, right? Like, I shouldn't feel sad for her because she's not sad. She's not a sad woman at all. She's not even a little bit sad. And she's healthy. Like, she looks perfectly healthy. And she's a beautiful woman, And so I shouldn't feel bad for her, but there's something so, I think if you completely let yourself entirely go, then sure, you feel like, oh, you get old and you're horrible. But when you take care of yourself, which I think she's a wonderful example. She takes care of herself more than even fucking I. She puts more effort into her presentation on a daily basis than most 30-year-olds I see. Definitely more than I do. Like on a daily basis, like unless I'm going somewhere, really, you know what I mean? Anyway, so I guess, let me look at my chicken scratch. So I just want to take a moment to say, I think I deserve a round of applause because I got my first flame on Bluesky. Thank you very much. What I did was I posted about a male to female trans athlete, just creaming every single female. He won by like 8 feet in some jump and then the long jump and the sprint relay, whatever all these things mean. I tried to write it and make it seem like I knew what I was talking about. I don't know what even a long jump is or a sprint relay anyway, but it's easier to sound like you know what you're talking about when you're writing because you could stop and then you go and you look at what the hell you need to say and you can think clearly. When you're talking, anyway. But it isn't fair. That's all I said was that this isn't fair and that it's taking opportunities from females, from female athletes. And then I just threw in to say, like, so don't worry, Trump's executive order. They're acting like, oh my God, he was digging a grave for the LGBTQ plus FU community. Meanwhile, his executive order is fucking hot air. So that was my point that I was making. But of course, and it's always, I'm sorry to say it this way because I know they don't like when you phrase, but clarity is important. And I know that a lot of times they don't want clarity because being vague was how so many people didn't know what was going on. So they were afraid to even speak about it. I'm going back, 10, 15 years ago. So, you don't want to seem like you hate people or you're being mean or but now people understand, like it's been a very long time and people are far more informed about these issues now. And overwhelmingly, Americans do not support males in female sports. They just don't. It's like 80%. Let me Google it. This I will Google, but I'll do it while I have you here. Because I type very good. I type like 45 words a minute. I learned how to type, I think, when I was 20 years old. Like, that really helps you, especially when you're online all the time, because you can type fast when people, they're hunt and pecking, or however to say that. But where am I? I did post it on Bluesky. It was a New York Times poll. I got to find it. It's 79% of Americans support restricting male to female transgender athletes from competing in girls and women's sports. Not in general, like nobody says we don't want trans people to be able to participate in sports. No one is saying that, but it has to be done fairly. That's all. Like it's just so terrible that every time you try to say anything, and especially as a lesbian person, like you try to say anything that is like, oh no, wait a minute, that doesn't work. Wait, no, look us too. We exist too. Hey, wait. When you try to do that, automatically, I got flamed so bad. They were calling me Nazi, bigot, trans, all these words that, first of all, and I told one of them, I was like, first of all, people don't care about these weirdo fucking terms that you make up in the middle of the night when you're jagging off into your sock. Nobody cares about these weird terms, okay? And two, it is very awful to see that things really haven't changed much from about 15 years ago. At least that's when I kind of started to be more aware of what was going on They use the same tactics to just shut you down, just by demonizing you, dehumanizing you. They pile on you on social media. It's very strange. But like on Twitter, that's not happening anymore. But, I've been exiled from Twitter. So because I don't fit into the left-right thing. So when you don't fit into that, maybe they just find you a complicated person and they don't want to, help you amplify your voice. I was getting several thousand. Back in the day, I would get 30,000 hits on one tweet. So if I would tweet 10, 20 tweets in a day, it was like hundreds of thousands of impressions that I would get on Twitter. And then I got an update on my Twitter when I logged in on it. It said that I got something like 10,000 impressions on my post last week. But when you look at the views, it'll say 80 views. when I tweet something, it'll say 50, 60, maybe 80 views I get if I'm lucky. But then behind the scenes, when you log on to Twitter on your phone or whatever, it tells you, oh, you got 10,000 impressions on your tweets this week, which is kind of what I was expecting, something like that. After not being around for 10 fucking years, I wasn't expecting tens of thousands, but I did expect a few because I have 47,000 people on that Twitter left. Anyway, that's a completely different story. I'm sorry. I digress. So, January 2025, New York Times poll found that 79% of Americans support restricting transgender athletes from competing in women's sports. This is the New York Times. This isn't some right-wing rag. Is it not necessary to maintain fairness and competition and protect girls and women in sports? I don't know how many of these athletes have been injured, and it's not normal injuries that you get, because you play sports, you get injuries occasionally. These are not normal injuries that women get. Look, Google it. Also, a 2023 Gallup poll reported that 69% of U.S. adults believe transgender athletes should only be allowed to compete on sports teams corresponding to their sex assigned at birth. So this is not a fringe opinion. It is a widely held view that after we've been exposed to a lot of what is happening with trans activism, and we're just talking about women's sports right now because there's so much else to do. There's so many other layers, right, to this. But just in terms of women's sports, parents have been, they had to get educated because you want to know what's going on with your child, especially if you have a little girl in sports. You don't want I would end up in jail. That's another story. But anyway, I would be the lesbo on the news. And people would be like, this is a crazy community, because it is a crazy community. And people view us as crazy. So I do not understand why so many on the left, liberals, progress, all of it, why they continue to push this is beyond me, because you're hurting people. Not only that, you're hurting transgender people, because you're making it seem like, oh, look, there's people on my side and I'm a victim. And it is horrible what you're doing to these people. They already have other psychological issues. It's not just a straight diagnosis of trans and, oh, you're just trans, and once you solve that, your problems are over. No, there's always several other diagnoses. And God forbid that our intelligent psychiatrists and psychologists and psychotherapists, God forbid they should treat people for mental illness rather than saying, oh, you know what, I'll sign you off, and then just impose yourself on the other 50% of the population and go and terrorize women for the rest of your fucking life. So these people have been created, because I know trans people, and they are not all on board with decimating girls and women's sports. They're not. And that, to me, I've always wondered, why on earth would they have gotten behind something like women's sports when that was the nail in the coffin? Because then people started really paying attention, because nobody cared before. Nobody was paying attention before. But when you start sending little Johnny to go and steal from little Melanie, You take Melanie's fucking scholarship, parents start paying attention. I remember thinking back then, like, why on earth would you want to do this when this is so obscene? Watching men, big, tall man, and he puts his hair in a ponytail, and that means he's a woman, not only a woman, because they don't want to just be women. They want to be lesbians, by the way. The overwhelming majority, especially the ones that are doing damage. The old school which we would say transsexuals back in the day, because they used to remove their genitals. Now they don't really, and they don't even bother getting breasts half the time. Sometimes they do, whatever. But like those were not, I'm not going to say that there wasn't some struggles there, but this is on another level altogether, that you think it's okay to steal scholarships, titles, opportunities, just run over bitches and keep it moving. And you're going to walk off being like 6'2", and you're going to walk off the field with your trophy. Do they realize? I don't even care to know what I don't even care to know what's going on in their minds. I don't really care to know, because a person like this, you don't even want to try to figure out their psychology, because you trying to figure out their psychology, that makes you crazy. So it's better to not try to figure it out. Leave it to even the psychiatrists, the psychiatric community, all the psychological institutions, all therapeutic. None of them can fucking figure it out. So I'm not going to waste the time that I have left on this planet. I am not going to spend it trying to figure out, like, are these people serious? Do they really believe? You know what I mean? But this was created, the monster that you guys created, the LGBTQ FU, all of our mental health institutions, and all the journalists and the left-wing media, and all of the paid little stooges on the internet to harass the shit out of people and terrorize you and terrify you so that you don't say a word. And I think also part of flaming a person, it's not really even for the person. Like, yeah, they want to shut you down. They want to shut you up. They want you to go away. They want to demonize you, all that stuff, right? You're a Nazi, blah, blah, blah. Okay. When there are real kind of like halfway sort of, I'd say they were Nazi sympathizers at least, right? But those people, they don't bother, they don't bother because those are usually men. So, but it's much easier and much more delicious to attack a lesbian woman, right? Because these people, I'm sorry, they're obsessed with lesbian women. You can call yourself whatever you want, but they're there to crusade, pillage, destroy. That's all they want to do. And they've done it, because lesbians don't even call themselves lesbians anymore. So they've been handed what they wanted, which was to destroy the lesbian world, and half the job is done. I'm very hopeful, because I do see some women a little bit more open to understanding. But the point is to not only try to stomp out that person who is speaking, it's to send a message to everyone watching. Like, look, this is what's going to happen to you if you speak at all. If you say 2 words, this is what's going to happen to you, because I have been nothing but respectful, and then all they do is provoke. And that hasn't gotten anything, but that's not usually how they get things, by being diplomatic. They get things by ramming shit through, right? So anyway, I would urge any trans people listening, the way a lot of transgender activists go about communicating, you might want to slow your roll a little, because people are fed up. Even the most supportive people, who are generally very welcoming, warm, open, and kind, and all that stuff, you turn people off with the way you go about stuff. And sometimes you want something and it doesn't go exactly the way you want it. That's just life for everyone. And just to shift for a second, like to think about how, a lot of lesbians are identifying as queer now, because I know a lot of bisexual women stopped liking the word bisexual. And okay, if you want to update your term, I don't care. But then, the LGBTQ, FU, queer community, this was all top down. They labeled lesbians queer. So there was a big push to change it into queer so that we fall into the category with, let's say a married straight woman who is also bi-curious, right? Or also men who identify as women, or even gay men, right? Like we were all, this wasn't an organic change. This wasn't a grassroots thing where lesbians together decided we don't want to be labeled lesbians anymore. We don't like this term. There's nothing to dislike necessarily about the term other than the fact that disgusting porno ravaged that word, right? But then what you do is you take it back. You don't just let them have it, and now lesbians become what they wanted to be, fake straight girls fucking each other with 3-inch fingernails. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry, was that vulgar? I'm trying to be a little less vulgar, but I can't help it. I'm just vulgar. Anyway. But so, like, I don't care if you're bi and you identify as queer, if you're straight and you say you're queer, like, whatever. I don't care. I never cared. Nobody cares, honestly. But I'm just speaking for myself and people who feel similarly. When you use queer instead of lesbian, or you use queer interchangeably with lesbian, what I worry about is how lesbian women will be remembered in history, because we'll be erased entirely. Because if you don't identify as anything, there's no way to find you. And maybe some lesbians don't care about our history being documented or anything. They just don't care, and that's fine. But many lesbians do. Like, how are they going to be able to find our specific, even our victories? Like, how will they find anything? Like, even in the moment, we can't even connect and find each other anymore, and everybody's something different, and nobody wants to be known for anything, and we're all just silent, walking empty vessels with no history, nothing that is specific. We're not specific. We're all just, one wad of gum on the bottom of somebody's shoe. Even in the moment, at this time, lesbians have gotten lost in the broader LGBTQ FU queer umbrella. And we've lost our unique history and our struggles as lesbians. Like, we don't even have a common story anymore. And just to prove that, like, if you don't think this is true, look at our social events compared to 20 years ago. We don't have any social events. And years ago, it could be Tuesday night. It's 9:00. You're talking to your friend on the phone, and you're like, you know what? Let's meet at such and such for a drink. And you could go to a completely lesbian place that's overrun with lesbian women. Like, that was such a privilege and a benefit. And it was just life back then. And it's so hard to grasp that just doesn't exist anymore. Lesbians have been so diluted into the LGBTQ queer that not only has our unique history and our experience been completely overlooked, any concerns or whatever, our struggles, our sexuality, our identity, the specific challenges we faced as women and as lesbian women, but we've got nothing to preserve. We've got nothing to pass on. Okay, so like if you're, let's say, a writer, most of these women who write lesbian fiction, let's say, or whatever, they all identify as sapphic, right? They don't say they're lesbian, they say sapphic. Then you have people who say, oh, I'm queer, and we don't know what that means, because queer largely means bisexual or male, right? But then, like, their lesbians have been trying to fit themselves into this queer thing, and they've really been trying to own it and carry it. But all it did was erase what being a lesbian actually is, because nobody knows what it means. So we don't have our own voice or legacy. And I don't know, as a lesbian, like, I feel like we have so much to be proud of. Like, our history is really fucking fascinating. You know, the way we did it, I think that deserves to be not only celebrated in the moment, but it deserves to be remembered. Like, we deserve to be remembered. And if we don't clarify that we're lesbian, then our sexuality, our identity, and all of our history goes into the toilet with the broader LGBTQ plus FU umbrella, because that isn't going to last. All of these letters, you know, they're so crazy now, all the different letters and all the 100 different identities. It's so crazy. Like, no one is going to remember our history without that distinction, our specific lesbian struggles and contributions. Gay men will be properly remembered because they still identify as gay. So technically, the way history gets recorded in books, stories, media, gay men will be remembered. And so will trans. Lesbians will not, because we got lost into queer. Because when lesbian isn't specified, we get grouped into a general queer category. That doesn't happen with males. So losing the specifics of our experiences, our narrative gets lost and overshadowed. And future generations, not only will they not understand our distinct contributions, they won't even be able to find them because we've already disappeared. We already don't exist. So if you're okay with getting lost in the history books, then this isn't for you. But if you do want our unique struggles and achievements to be recognized and recorded, then we need to ensure that we are identified as lesbians and not just lumped into a broader category, who, by the way, the broader category of LGBTQ, FU, queer, progressive, liberal, all that, what they've been doing over the past 15 years, and this is just one out of many things that are incredibly awful, is they've been trying to destroy girls' and women's sports. So not only do I not want to be associated with that, because I don't agree with it, and I've been fighting it tooth and nail as hard as I can for a very long time, and the injuries that women get, these are very horrible injuries that they get. So I feel like we have to protect the integrity and safety of girls and women's sports. So I am not identified with these people anymore. I oppose that very deeply, strongly, whatever. But beyond that, I feel that we need to ensure that lesbians exist for future generations to find us. Thank you for listening.
Got flamed on blue sky, yeah, first time's a charm. Broke my virginity, set off the alarm. Bad faith talk, they're twisting the scene. Call me a bigot, transphobe, terror smurf, superb. Twerping a Nazi ain't that extreme. I'm standing for fairness, I'm calling for truth, but they rather just slander than face the proof. 80% gather numbers don't lie. New York Times poll checked it, watch that support rise. Silence won't work, we see through the game. Twisting the words, but the facts stay the same. Cross you, people won't know. Late to die, late as a no.